So if you could introduce yourself, Tim, and your team who's on the call.
Absolutely. So good morning. My name is Tim Slusser. I am the Chief of Mobility Innovation here in the city of Detroit. And we will be the ones that will be accepting performance of this RFP contract. So with me today, I have Jeff Mosley and okay, nope, I'm sorry. It's just me. And so I'll be doing the background and description of the needs today, and answer any questions that might come up on this. And Eric, you can go to the next slide, please.
Hey, Tim and Eric, I just want to tell you that I am here. I'm mostly listening, but if needed, I can provide support and some questions. Good morning, everyone. Tricia Stein, I'm Mayor Duggan's Chief Strategy Officer.
Morning, Trish.
Thank you, Tricia.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the list of people and I was like, that's a long list. I think it's just me. So, all right. Eric, did you want to cover these slides and yes. I'll get to mine? Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. So just an overview of the pre-bid process. This call is being recorded. So please place your name and company or organization that you represent within the chat for attendance purposes. All bidders are encouraged to ask questions. You may enter them into the chat at any time. All verbal responses to questions provided today are unofficial until documented in the written as official response in the supplier portal. And then submit additional questions in the supplier portal, and we will respond to all bidders via the portal. The American Rescue Plan Act, what is it? $1.9 trillion federal stimulus bill that was signed into law in March 2021 to combat the effects of COVID-19. Many states and municipalities across the country was given this money to directly fix some of the budget shortfalls and some of the ails that happened during COVID-19. What does this mean for our bidders? It means that all bidders must follow the federal guidelines as set forth in RFP as far as it relates to prevailing wages for your employees and all of those federal mandates. Project background. Office of Contracting and Procurement, on behalf of the Office of Mobility and Innovation, is seeking qualified and experienced electrical vehicle charger organizations that can design, install, operate, and maintain direct current fast charging stations. With that, I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to go through the scope of work and some of the description of needs for this project.
Right. Can you hear me? Back on. All right, good. Sorry, I always want to double check. So thank you all for attending. It's great to see so much participation in this pre-bid. Just really high level, in terms of the scope of work, we're looking for an entity that will come in, design, build, operate, and maintain this infrastructure for us. We're looking for, this entity to actually furnish as well as install all the hardware and the software that's required to operationalize the EV charging stations. The city of Detroit will own this infrastructure. In terms of locations, we are looking at a combination of publicly and privately owned sites. So the typologies that we're looking at are very specifically surface parking lots and potentially some curbside parking, right? And so we're not looking at any parking structures or anything like that because we're specifically targeting DC fast charging in this RFP. So the model for DC fast charging of 15 to 30 minutes of charging and then you keep on your merry way doesn't really mesh well with the parking structure model. I'm not going to a parking structure for 15 to 30 minutes. I'm going there for a longer period of time. So just to provide you that level of information so that as you're working through your pricing and your bids, you have that to reflect on. In terms of revenue, there is no revenue sharing that is envisioned for this. You can expect that the city will collect 100% of the revenue. So please account for that as you do your pricing. We're not asking for any bids that require any sort of revenue sharing. So in terms of the scope of work, as I mentioned, we are very specifically targeting DC fast charging. We are aligning largely with what you're seeing out there in the NEVI guidelines, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, if you're familiar with those. A maximum power output of 150 kW or greater. If you're not familiar with this terminology, what that means is that the minimum rating of the charging station maximum output needs to be at least 150 kW. Okay, it can be 150 kW or 200 kW or 250 kW or anything greater, but we don't want to see any 50 kW charging stations, right? Or 75 kW charging stations. We're looking for 150. Now, we are open because some of these sites are going to be unique in the way it can be structured. We are open to options site specific. We want to install as much power as possible on each site. But in certain circumstances, our other guidelines, we're trying to serve at least 4 parking spaces wherever possible, right? So you could have, for example, one 150 kW charging station with 2 plugs, right? So that if one person's charging, they get, up to 150 kW. If 2 people are charging simultaneously, it splits that power amongst the 2 cars, right? That is an acceptable solution, but every charging station that, is installed, our vision is for that to be at least capable of at least 150 kW under the right scenarios, okay? We are looking for CCS type 1 connectors. We are aware of what's happening, in the industry to convert and adopt towards what's referred to as the NAICS standard, which is essentially the Tesla plug. But for right now, with where vehicle operators are, we're requesting the CCS type 1 connector. This again is in alignment with the current NEVI protocols. And then the last thing on the DC fast chargers specifically that I'll mention for now is we do want them to be DTE charging forward rebate eligible. Okay, this does 2 things for us. DTE's program is one that exists as long as they have money to continue funding it, right? There's obviously no guarantees that money will be available in the future, but if it is, we certainly want to be able to access it through this program to help us with the costs of doing this project. But as well, it helps to verify that the equipment has been tested by another party, verified for safety, for capability, so on and so forth. So DT has already done that. So we are leveraging that work to create the right outcomes here for the city of Detroit. In terms of reporting, our expectations for this are that whoever we select, obviously we'll do all the installation, get the site and everything operational. And then once we transition each site that we do to the operation and maintenance portion of the contract, we would expect monthly reports on the site and station performance. We want to understand, how much each charging station is being used, how much revenue that's being generated. We want to understand any potential incidents or downtime that happens. And understanding why those things are happening, right? What is being done in order to ensure that the stations are have the highest level of uptime possible, right? As well as when that there might be something, there is a supply chain constraint, right? We need information on what's happening there, right? We are striving for the highest level of service possible for the residents and community that exists here in the city of Detroit, right? So that is largely what the reporting will focus on. Those details are spelled out very explicitly in the RFP. And then I already did mention incident reporting, which to us again includes outages, includes downtime, includes maybe cyber incidents, right? All of that we expect reporting from the selected bidder or bidders. I believe there might be one more slide for me on scope of work, Eric. Nope. Okay. All right, so I will stop there and make, obviously be available for any questions on the additional topics. So we're back over to you, Eric.
Thank you. So going through our project timeline overview, advertised date for this was Monday, July 1st. Questions are due Tuesday, July 23rd, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. The proposal due date is Monday, July 30th of 2024, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. In the supplier portal, no proposals will be accepted in any other way other than through the Oracle Supplier Portal. Work schedule, work start date, pending City Council approval. We have an estimated project kickoff date of September 24th, 2024. Some of the key response items, RFP attachment list. These are all of the attachments that were provided within the actual submission itself. We expect for you to go through each and every one of these documents to make sure that all the information that is required from you is given to us for the respondent questionnaire, the proposal introduction and solution, the pricing sheet, forms, affidavits, and documents. The technical professional services contract was also uploaded, so you have an idea of what the City of Detroit's contract is and the language involved. The bid payment and performance bond forms, the AI fact sheet for third-party systems. There were 3 exhibits as well. The requirements for the DC fast charging, the DC station security and software functionality, and then also for the data access and reporting requirements. So these are the documents that are readily available through the portal. And that was it. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up for some questions. We'll try to answer all of these questions as we can. And so if there are any questions that we're not able to answer right now, we will definitely make sure that we take those questions down and then give your answers through the supplier portal. So Derek Braswell.
Yes, sir. So my question would be, we're talking about DC fast. So, and within the criteria of DTE's rebate specifications. So they are installing power, I think, up to 600 amps for 83 phase. And I think they offer 110 for charging stations. My question would be for 2 charging stations, that is. My question would be, what would be the assumptions be going into this bid? Do I assume that the power is going to be provided by DTE, therefore I don't have to put it in my bid? Or because I don't know what that number would be. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going to have 2 DC fast stations there, the ones that our company would provide would be either a 120 or 180, preferably the 180. It's going to require at least 300 amps per machine. So we're looking at least 600 amps. And then that's not to even think about future proofing. Do we future proof on these particular solutions? So I guess the assumption would be, what do we have going in that we could factor out of, you know, the pricing?
Yeah, so I want to be really careful here because I think I fully understand your question. So I'm going to answer this by saying we're probably going to need to follow up via the Q&A fact sheet as well. But what I can tell you is we have already spent some time with our local utility here to verify power is accessible in the areas where we're looking to do these deployments, right? The city is envisioning, you know, paying for all of the infrastructure here. But the way I understand your question is, you know, does that payment go through this contract or does it go separately, right? And so that's where I'm going to just say, I think we need to make sure I go back and get the exact right answer on that before I speak here. So please look for that answer in our Q&A. And so, but yes, we have at least verified that, you know, there is power available. And if you're familiar with the DT process, you know, the power is not fully obligated to that space until you start to submit service requests and things like that, you know, which would be envisioned as part of the process for any contractor we select. But yes, you know, we would be paying for, you know, any necessary upgrades that are not covered by DTE. And so.
Okay, and I'm thinking that there are going to be separate systems and separate services installed for all of these.
Yes, we would be pulling in our own service from the local utility. It would be separate from any other co-located entity and operations that are on these specific sites if those do exist. So yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Philip Clark.
Yes, good morning. Tim actually answered one of my questions already. In terms of DTE, it says you guys are paying for infrastructure. Are they on the same page as you in terms of timing? Because all the EV projects we've worked on in the DC fast world requires transformers, and those things are on back order. Do you have any insight as to if they can keep up with your request to get this done in this calendar year or the next calendar year?
Yeah, so we obviously can't confirm that there's guarantees of timing until we start to actually submit service orders and things like that. But the local utility is aware of our plans, in our desire to build out this type of infrastructure. We've been spending and checking off as many boxes as possible to ensure that we have success with the program, meaning the power is available there, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's I can't say with 100% certainty, that we have those things, but we're trying to take all the necessary steps and all the reasonable steps to, set us up for success here.
Okay, that's what I hear all the time. Last question. Can you share with the attendees any electrical schematics you have for the sites chosen? You said there's sufficient power, but without those schematics, we're kind of poking around in the dark.
You got it, right? So we have not yet entered into the phase where we are pulling schematics or designing specific sites, right? We are not experts as electrical contractors. So that is part of the scope of work that we are expecting from the winning, bid or bidders, that they will come in as we're providing sites, help us identify, power, do review of any, easement, that's required, and help us with our initial designs for the layout of the properties, such that we can confirm those things that you're asking right now. So that's where we're at today.
Thank you.
And will engineer drawings be required? I'm sure they would for this project.
Yes, engineering drawings will be required. Those are going to be required for permitting and other things as well. So that should be part of your bid.
Thank you.
Ray Smith.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, how you doing, Tim? Calling in terms of, by this being an ARPA, American Rescue Plan cash funding as well, what is the amount of money from the government for this project here? And also, in particular, are you looking for any private sites to install some of those DCFCs?
So I'll kind of work backwards. We are, again, looking to partner with private landowners. We have already started our process to engage those landowners to put this infrastructure where we believe it can help the city, the most in terms of achieving widespread adoption of electric vehicles. In terms of, how much government money is being spent, ARPA is, we have some ARPA dollars that will be applied towards this project. We have some other funding sources that we are targeting as well. So I think I would want you to maybe submit your question in writing so that we can understand that and respond to it accordingly, because there's a number of different categories where this funding is potentially coming from.
Okay, I was just specifically talking about the ARPA funds, but I'll send it in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Total number of charging stations, how many are you guys targeting?
So we are targeting right now approximately 20 sites. Our hope, right? Because again, we need the expertise of the winning bidders to help us actually do the individual site designs. But we're hoping for again 20 sites. And we're targeting a minimum of 4 spaces, right? 4 parking spaces that can be, simultaneously served, for electric vehicle charging. And so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Fedor.
Hi. What kind of success are you having engaging with those real estate owners that you've been reaching out to? You don't need to be too specific, but I'm curious. Obviously, that's the most important part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how things are going.
I'll be honest with you, very warm response. There's a lot of interest in participating, in this project with the city. We're working through the specifics, as you could imagine. There's a lot that is entailed, who owns, what areas of the parcels and all that sort of stuff. So, that's what we're working through right now, but a very warm response from the community so far that we've approached on partnering with us for this. So.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
There was another hand that went up and then it went down. Any other questions? Dwight.
So are you saying 4 parking spaces? So you're looking to have 2 dual port chargers per location, roughly?
Excuse me. So thank you for that clarifying question, Dwight. So we are targeting 4 spaces simultaneously served. Ideally, if the capacity exists on site, we would have 4 independent charging stations. Okay, that does 2 things for us. It provides additional redundancy. So if a specific station goes down, right, we've got those additional stations. But in certain circumstances, we may not have 600 kW of capacity at a given site, right? But we still really want to target that site. So we are open to considering, 2 dual port chargers to serve those 4 spaces. Other sites, for example, we might be a little constrained on how much, area of the parking lot that a certain property owner wants to allow us to dedicate to this program, right? So we might end up in a scenario we have 2 parking spaces instead of 4, right? And we may say, okay, well, we still have 700 megawatt or kilowatts of capacity. Maybe we do 2 350 kW charging stations, right? So we are looking to optimize. Going back to a point that I think I heard Derek mention, to try and future proof as much as possible. We think that the minimum threshold to quote unquote future proofing is 150 kW. We think anything less than that, is not going to have a really high utility, 5 or 10 years from now. So that's part of the reason why we're trying to design around these constraints. And so hopefully that answered your question.
Well, and based on the spreadsheet you guys provided, the pricing doesn't seem to, there wasn't a defined amount that we are going to be bidding. So how do you evaluate pricing, and what are you looking at from the pricing schedule mainly?
Yes. So
because all these sites will be different, once you get to it and design it is, the numbers are going to be, the install and the design numbers are going to be different based on each site.
Yep. So we're looking for some information from you on, if you have a preferred charging station brand or type, right? What that is, obviously, assuming it complies with the DTE pre-qualified requirements. We're looking for you to provide your hourly rate or any flat rate you might have for site design. We're looking to you to package it in a way where we can, because we don't want to put the full burden of that risk, obviously, on you. So we're looking for you to quote us in terms of hourly rates or unit rates or things like that, such that as we're going to these various sites, we have an understanding of what we're walking into in terms of pricing structure. The degree to which any of you are able to commit to once you've, estimate a certain number of hours or any sort of guarantees towards your pricing, we'd certainly be interested in looking at and evaluating as well. But I do understand. Sorry, I wanted to wait for that noise so you made sure you heard me. I want to make sure that we, have a clear understanding of how you can price your structure, given these uncertainties. And so, again, hopefully that answered the question the way you intended it.
Sure, thanks.
So, real quickie, in terms of construction, Now, my experience in planting these DC fast, obviously we try to look for very easy installs, somewhere in a grassy area like that. But in Detroit, where it's a little bit more densely populated, I'm pretty sure we're going to have little grass or whatever. We may have to tear the concrete up or the asphalt. Obviously, we won't know that until we get to that particular site. So it would be kind of hard to forecast that, not knowing upfront, you know what I'm saying? So how would you factor that in?
Yeah. So, I think you can call out uncertainties or, upon quoting from, subcontractors or things like that. You can call out what your methodology is for obtaining quotes, right? Are you going to obtain a single quote? Are you going to obtain, at least 3 quotes? So on and so forth. So I think, kind of give us whatever information you can in terms of how you would handle that as more of maybe like a general contractor type of a role. Given those sorts of things, we do understand, that those things are going to pop up. And, to kind of go back to maybe what you alluded to in the beginning of your point, we will be looking for our selected vendor or vendors to, provide us with an ability to try and help optimize our cost structure, i.e. minimize installation costs, right? So we're looking for you to say, hey, here's what the site looks like. This might be where you want to install, but if you install over here, we think we can reduce costs by, somewhere in the area of, 10 or 20%, because of these factors, right? Ultimately, the city and, in terms of this contract, the city will have final say. So we may say, well, yes, we agree that would be the best place to put it in terms of cost, but we need to put it here for these other reasons, right? So, and then, obviously we would, proceed with an understanding of that does, put the cost where the cost would be. And
yeah,
so,
we work with the city of Lansing under that same type of umbrella. So yeah, definitely. Because you won't know until we go out and do the assessment to actually fully understand what's going to be needed. Some are going to be more difficult than others. We understand that. But we just want to know if that flexibility could be built in. So, okay.
Yeah, and I appreciate the question. And I do want to say, part of the reason why we are throwing the RFP out to all of you right now is, we really want to get this up and running as quickly as possible, right? And so, we've got a couple, early sites, we believe identified. And then, we would obviously look to start on those. And then as we get more of the other sites on board, we would quickly start to, get those ones operational. So you should have also seen in the RFP, there is a desire to work with contractors that can focus on more than one site at a time, because of that. So again, thank you for the question.
Well, we have multiple sites in Michigan, and we also have several sites in other states. So yeah, we're definitely well prepared for this. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, let's go to Ray. Ray
Hey, sorry about the repeated question. Not a repeated question, but yeah, this is a massive project here for the city of Detroit. I commend you on this year, taking the lead on this here project. I mean, is well deserved and well needed. But I just have a couple of questions here about the community engagement. And that's one issue that we heavily involved with is the community buying into this. And is there going to be opportunities for the community to engage in terms of being particular on the job sites in terms of any of the companies dealing with the pre-apprenticeship or apprenticeship programming? Also, in terms of the site design, are you looking for the potential contractors to actually design the sites? Because we got to be mindful of people with disabilities. I experienced several charging stations in the city of Detroit that was very, very unfriendly to me as a disabled motorist. I may have attempted to proceed in terms of some lawsuits, but let's get this right. We want to design the project in terms of for an all-inclusive project. Make sure everyone's able to pull in, charge successfully, and also charge, make it a friendly experience. But yeah, the site design and the community engagement. Thank you for the.
Yeah, so Ray, thank you for bringing that up. We are looking to use all current best practices. We have identified some. We'd be looking for, some from our again winning bidders. That feedback from you. But we are looking to implement all best practices that are currently known for accessibility, and things like that. In terms of the community engagement, we have, intentions here at the city to do community engagement around education awareness of electric vehicles, as well as awareness of this infrastructure, so that the community knows that this is here. We can help to utilize that to try and help stimulate, adoption of electric vehicles, all of that. If you have thoughts or opportunities for us to work with you in terms of the workforce type areas of community engagement as well, we'd be very interested in getting a little bit of information on that in your application. So please do include it. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Timothy,
Clark.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw an addition in there to just to make him feel a little bit safer. If we're going to be following the NEVI guidelines, I know NEVI requires ADA compliance. So ADA in there is going to definitely look at, they'll definitely look at what he's talking about at this particular point. So,
Philip.
Yes, thank you, Tim. You made a couple statements that I need clarification on. So, is it expected that this could go to more than one awardee?
The city reserves the right to award more than one contract for this.
Okay, awesome. Second question. In these sites that have been chosen, what's the methodology you've used to determine that's the best site? And before you answer, one of the issues I've come across is utilization's low. The client blames the vendor. You've got to really decide what's the traffic, what's the registered vehicles in that area. What was the methodology used to choose the sites that you've gotten so far?
Yeah, so I'll touch on that briefly, but I do want to state, right, so the client here is the city of Detroit, right? We understand the current state of electric vehicles and, of utilization of this type of infrastructure. So I think your customer response is maybe a little bit different than you would otherwise find. That being said, we are very much interested in deploying in areas where we have major corridors across the city of Detroit that has, significant traffic flow. We're targeting, our non-highway corridors with this program in specific, right? And we have a vision for something in the range of maybe like 3 to 5 miles. You can go anywhere in the city when this network is completed, and never be more than 3 to 5 miles from a DC fast charger, right? We also are intending to put these as close and highly visible from the roadways as possible. So that individuals who just happen to be driving by those corridors on a daily basis, going to work, going to the grocery store, whatever it is they might be doing, we're intending to put signage up and things like that, calling out these stations owned and operated by the city of Detroit. So that individuals can start to have the experience of driving down these corridors on a regular basis, seeing this infrastructure, and then when they're making a decision on what their next vehicle is going to be, having the confidence to say, you know what, I can get an electric vehicle because I know where I can charge this. I know that there's accessible charging for me. I see it every day when I drive down the road. So at a high level, those are some of the parameters that we have, tried to think about in order to make the decision on these locations and create the greatest benefit for residents, for businesses, and things like that, right? Because, this infrastructure is expensive. We want to help encourage, adoption of these types of vehicles. It's good for the city when we have less, the tailpipe emissions and the noise and all those other things that come along, with the current state of vehicles. So, yeah, appreciate the question, though.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
I think Dwight was next in line.
okay. You answered the question about multiple awards. So in light of that, if the opportunity exists for the city to have multiple charging types, is that something you're looking for? Or do you want all the units to be uniform? For
When you
instance,
say
if you have
multiple-
two suppliers, you might have two different charging products that was preferred in the solicitation or in the proposal.
Yeah, so the way I'm interpreting your question, Dwight, is were we willing to install more than one charging station model type or
Correct.
manufacturer type.
Correct.
And my answer to you is right now, given the state of the industry, we are open to that, right? And again, when you look at the various sites, and you start to think about, the potential outcomes, right? Some of them might,
Yeah.
might be limited to only 2 spaces. Again, our hope is that we can get 4 at every location. We're maybe choosing different vendors for, they might have a
Right.
150 kW solution, but not a 350 kW solution. So we're open to that, again, as long as it's a pre-qualified station that is on DTE's list, because they've already gone through that process. So we're going to leverage that. And we're going to have to evaluate all the proposals to really understand, if it's something we can buy. Obviously, the ideal solution is to have a single software platform,
Yep.
and then to have as few of types of charging stations as possible, because that will simplify operation and maintenance, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to take a look and look at it holistically from the bids that we get in as we continue to have the conversations with various property owners and understand their concerns. So.
Okay, and you also mentioned that these are federal funds. There aren't any, you don't have any preferences for federally certified contractors or anything like that, right?
I would have to defer to Eric on that question.
Okay.
So from standpoint, you do have to be registered with SAM. You do have to have a SAM for this federally funded project. And then, based upon that, you just have to make sure that you follow the guidelines as it relates to the prevailing wage. I saw the question in there. Yes, that is applicable. So those are the main areas from a federal compliance that you need to go by. Deputy Lemon, is there anything else that I missed as it relates to federal requirements?
No, just want to highlight that there are no geographical preferences or anything given because we are using federal funds. So no Detroit certifications, no minority businesses. There are no extra credits for any of those certifications. While we do encourage, you to partner or have those certifications, we don't give the actual credits for it.
I got a quick question.
If
we're following the NEBI.
One more.
Hold on, wait. So we'll go with the follow-up question, and then we'll go to Balin, and then we'll come back to Derek.
Well, I was referencing, I was going back to the charger types. Like we installed some chargers for National Park Service, and those are more durable, outdoor, more protected type charging units. Is that something you guys are keen on as far as exterior durability and security?
I would look at it. We certainly want, the highest level of security possible, right? We don't want to succumb to any sort of, cyber events or anything like that, right? We want to optimize our cost structure for long-term operation and maintenance, right? So if you want to make the case for a certain type of charging station or brand, please feel free to do that in your proposal. But we're looking to optimize for total cost, maybe not necessarily on an individual unit cost.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Balin.
Does the city have electric fleets, and are any of these charging stations going to be used for fleet charging as well?
So I think we might have had a misstep in the order there, but to answer this question really quickly, the city does have some fleets of electric vehicles. The intent of this infrastructure is not to tailor to the city fleets. The intent of this infrastructure is to target publicly accessible charging and to expand access to that across the city of Detroit. We haven't made a determination yet as to whether or not we'd be looking to have access to this infrastructure in any sort of special way with our fleets. But yeah, I think you should view it from the lens of this is going to be built and designed to be publicly accessible first. And so, Eric, who are we going to next?
Phrase Enterprise.
I got skipped. Sorry about that. My mute wouldn't come off.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to verify, this question is directed to Limit. You said that you will not have to have, or you're not going to include the certifications for the Detroit-based businesses. I just wanted to make correct that I heard that correctly.
So using the federal funds, we're not allowed to give geographical preferences, such as Detroit-based business, Detroit headquarter, and such. So we don't give credits for that, but we do encourage you to, submit the information or partner with those types of businesses and everything like that. It's just there are no additional points when we're calculating your points for the evaluation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good. So we're going to go back to Balin, then we'll go to Derek, and then Andrew.
Thank you. I was wondering if you were interested in any other site hosts, if we have any contacts within the city of Detroit who own property, if you're looking for any additional site hosts, as well as, well, actually, I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Yeah, for right now, I would say, we're not looking for any help at this moment with identifying site hosts, but appreciate the question.
Derek.
I wanted to go back to the certification part. Knowing the criteria for NEVI, I do think, unless they've dropped it, for electricians, they should be EVIT certified. I don't know if that's still a requirement, but that would be one of the things that would interject. And the last thing is, or the second thing is, administration. Now, once we get the sticks in the ground, they're up and operational, making money. Are you guys going to have a department that administers these charging stations? Because I mean, once you get them in, that's the easy part. The hard part is keeping them up running. You know what I'm saying? So who's going to be? We offer 24/7 remote support, and when we see something offline, we dispatch someone out to go out and check it. We also offer proactive support where 2 or 3 days out of the month, we'll go by and touch it without anybody saying anything, just go by and look at it. So my whole thing is, after you get them in, you guys going to have a department to handle this? Because, it's intense after the fact.
Yeah, so the first part of your question, EVITP, if I'm not mistaken, is explicitly called out in the RFP. We are requiring that certification or equivalent. Right. In terms of, the other piece, this is a design, build, operate, and maintain. So there are 2 phases that are specifically called out. If you look towards the beginning of the RFP and the contract terms. So we are looking for any of you vendors that are applying. You are applying not only to do the install, but also to do the operations and maintenance. We are not interested in receiving any proposals that only target one or the other, right? So if you do submit a bid, please be prepared to submit for both categories. And we would be looking, and you can see the terms in the RFP to actually execute, that operation and maintenance agreement so that you will maintain it on behalf of the city, right? You'll be under contract with us to do exactly that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great.
Yep.
Andrew.
Hi, I see in the minimum qualifications that the firms must be SOC 1 Type 2 compliant. Would SOC 2 Type 2 be acceptable?
I think we would have to, our experts in terms of the SOC 2 compliances, I don't believe is on this call at the moment. Apologies for that. If you can submit that question, we'll get you an answer on it. I just don't know enough about the differences between those certifications to give you the answer right here in the moment. I apologize for it, but we will get that answer posted.
Yep. Thank you.
Deputy Limit.
I just was going to piggyback off of what Tim was saying to make sure that we're not confusing geographical preferences with required licenses in order to install the type of equipment that we're requesting. So there's a difference. So if there's any licenses that you saw in the RFP that is required, you should definitely make sure that you submit those. And then I want everybody to pay attention to the evaluation criteria and what we're actually looking for. And so when you read through each of those criteria, you're going to need to make sure that you are explaining to us why you meet this criteria and why your design is better than someone else's. So I know a lot of people have been talking about like what they offer here in this meeting. I'm encouraging you to make sure you document those things in your proposal because we're not going to go back when we're doing the evaluation to say, hey, let me go back to the pre-bid meeting and see what someone offered. So it's really important for you to sell or tell us, you know, your how great you are on paper. So I just wanted to make sure I touch that before we go, because I'm hearing a lot of things, but be interested to see those things too.
Great point. Thank you, Deputy. And that's extremely important. Your proposal, what you submit to us, is key. That's how we know, and that's how we're going to be able to evaluate your firm, your expertise, and how you're going to approach this project. So it's extremely important that, you know, rather than selling here, you need to make sure you're selling your documentation in which you give us. So great point. I think Dwight's hand was up.
Oh, still muted, sir.
So for clarification, the way I read it, it was like a 5-year period for design and install and 5-year operating, or roughly a transition from design build to operational once that section is signed off or bought off. Will you be, so this, my clarification on the funding, this will be funded typical like a design build construction project until the time you sign off, and then it becomes operational maintenance fees? Because there's different, you know, as you go into as you sign off on the project, the design and install, it becomes operational.
Yep.
So the funding mechanism for the design build is probably pretty standard AIA type monthly billing, progress billing. The operational side, what are you looking for there as far as how you're going to fund that?
Yeah, Eric, I don't know if this is something that you can step in and answer, but what I will say just really quickly is my understanding, I'm not part of the procurement office. I'm not the one that decides how the contracts look, right? But my understanding of the way this is structured is we would have a 5-year term with which to do construction. The second that specific site finishes construction, it would immediately transition over to the operation and maintenance portion of the contract language. And there'd be a 5-year term that you would already have pre-agreed to, so to speak, you know, for the operation and maintenance of that individual site. So there will be a little bit of a staggering, you know, based on when sites come online, is my understanding. But Eric, if there anything that you'd add to that or correct anything I might have misspoken on?
That is correct. That's definitely how it would transition.
So again, the first 5 years is going to be your typical progress payments, and then once you go into operational maintenance, you'll set a structure up so that's either on monthly based on percentage of revenue, or is that just basically on call T&M mainly?
I think, you know, maybe the way to answer your question, and I would again open it to my colleagues here from the procurement office, is, you know, we're looking for you to tell us, you know, what your model and your rates are for that operation and maintenance portion, right? And so,
if I may interject real quickly, the way I have it set up with the city of Lansing, we sell, install, and maintain the equipment. And we also collect all funds and distribute out to the city. In that distribution, maintenance and support is already taken care of. So that's something that the client wouldn't even have to worry with. Once we do get the contract to put it in, it's just an ongoing thing. It segues, it's seamless. You don't know anything about it. We just continue to, as we get the sites up, that's when the maintenance and operation comes in, or the operation and maintenance. And so it's an effortless type of flow. Essentially, that's the way I would think would be more effective than having to parse out, you know, you got the infrastructure, the installation phase, and now you're going to go on to the operation and maintenance phase. All of that should just go hand in hand. Once the machine is in the ground, you got to start maintaining it. Just that.
It's all going to be contractual. So,
right.
Right.
You know, it will go that way.
We thank you for helping us with that, but we do have some ways that we want to do it. So again,
No, I understand, but
I encourage everybody to put, you know, their plan on paper.
I would think. Right.
Yeah.
Balin.
Yeah, so just in looking through the RFP, I see the sites aren't listed, and in terms of proposing hardware, depending on if it's going to be dual port or single port pedestals, it would help the proposal process, I guess, to either have a list of sites so we could kind of plan that out, or if you would just accept multiple technologies as what we have for offer, and then we choose the technology based on site specific. I just kind of wanted to clarify that, what you prefer.
Yeah, so I think, you know, if you'd like to include, we're flexible to whichever way you want to take it. Okay, if you'd like to include multiple solutions, you know, hey, here's a 150 dual port, here's a 150 stationary, here's a 350 kit, like however you want to structure that, we'll take the information. Because we do understand that, you know, not having the sites, not having the site layout right, because that's where we are on the stage, that creates some additional unknowns. So yeah, if you would like to provide us with the information, you know, you can certainly do that. Yeah, we'll take it. So, you know, but part of it too, the degree to which you can tell us, you know, kind of what your rates are for procuring, you know, those charging stations helps us in our evaluation process.
All right.
Thanks.
Next is Ray Smith.
Oh, yes, sir. We down to 12 days. Is that the correct time frame?
Yeah, since it went out on the 1st. So yes, at this time, that is the correct time frame.
And there's no consideration? I'm just asking.
At this time, there has not been any considerations to extend. So I will tell you that we should be planning to make sure your proposals are complete and firm on the 30th.
Okay, thank you.
And your turn, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You'll turn around the questions in a couple of days once you.
Yes, absolutely. That is the goal. We have been uploading those answers, you know, as those questions come in, we're really trying to make sure we turn them as quick as possible to allow for everyone to have the same information at the same time. So we're definitely looking to turn those questions into answers relatively quickly. So Dan.
Is there any credit to being a Detroit Lions fan?
I wish,
Everybody
but
should be
unfortunately, no.
And then in all seriousness, this is wonderful. I was wondering if you are sharing this or copying this from any other cities in the country. In other words, are you going to reach out to your colleagues in any other cities? We would love to take this on the road. So just curious if that has happened, if you plan to communicate this to other colleagues around the country.
So I'm interpreting the question as to whether or not we're looking to kind of promote the good work we're doing here and the model that we've chosen to try and create access for public infrastructure across the city of Detroit. If that is in fact the question, yes, we absolutely are. This is going to be a major undertaking here for the city of Detroit. We will be looking to promote this work, and I can only assume at this point in time that would include obviously some visibility for the partners that we select in doing this work. But this is a major initiative for the city and one of our top priorities.
Right.
Thank you.
And the last question we'll have from Deputy Lemon.
So it's not a question, just a statement for everybody. So in part of sharing, we do work with other municipalities and we communicate about the different types of procurements that we're doing and that they're doing. So that is another way that we are actively engaging and trying to make sure that we're all on the same page around the country. And then I just wanted to remind everybody that the funds for the American ARPA plan, the American Rescue Plan Act, we are trying to make sure that we have everything obligated, contracted by the end of December. So we're dangerously close. And so that is something that we want you to consider as to why we're given this time frame. We want to make sure that we meet that deadline. While we're doing all of these great things, we never want to be the city who wasn't able to spend some free money. So keep that in mind when you're looking at why did they give us this deadline? It's because we have a deadline. And so while all the money may not be ARPA, we want to make sure that we are using up the ARPA funds in a timely way so that in the event that there are additional ARPA funds, we can come back and get more money. So I just want to make sure everybody keep that in mind, that when we're talking about timelines, because we have a bigger timeline that we need to meet from a city standpoint.
Yeah, these are use it or lose it dollars. So
Yes.
that's the one of the drivers behind the timelines. And so
All right, Dwight, you're going to be the last one. Any
Yeah.
other questions we're going to accept through the portal?
Well, just
What was that? Go ahead.
just piggybacking off of that. So the ARPA funds, the $24 got to be spent by September 30th, right? Committed.
By December. But
Or
in this
September.
case, we want the contract done by we're anticipating September.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Fed funds usually expire at the end of September.
Okay.
Federal dollars. At least in our federal program.
Well, we'd like to thank you all for joining. This was very good. I appreciate all of the questions. This actual recording will be made available to you. Along with the questions that we get through the portal, we'll try to make sure we turn them as quick as possible and get that information back to you so that you can make the proper decisions that you need to make for your bid proposals for submittal. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Eric, you want to stay on?
I will.